NASA recently avoided a big problem with one of its oldest and most famous spacecraft, Voyager 2. A wrong signal was accidentally sent from Earth, which caused the spacecraft to lose contact with mission control for almost 10 days. This was a serious concern because Voyager 2 is extremely far away, about 20 billion kilometers from Earth. At such a huge distance, even sending a message takes more than 18 hours for the signal to travel one way. It all began when Voyager 2, which is near the edge of our solar system, suddenly behaved in an unusual way. It turned in a direction it wasn't supposed to. No one was sure if it was a technical problem or something stranger. Then, after the connection was restored, it sent back information that made NASA scientists very curious and a little uneasy. The signal suggested that Voyager 2 had experienced something unexpected in deep space. Some scientists even wondered if it might hint that our solar system is not as empty as we thought. Voyager 2 has been traveling through space for almost 50 years. It was launched on August 20, 1977, aboard a Titan Centaur rocket. At the time, it was considered an engineering marvel, even though it had less memory than a cheap calculator today, only 256 kilobytes, and used just 23 watts of power to send data. It was built to explore the outer planets and then keep traveling outward, never returning to Earth. Over the decades, Voyager 2 has flown past some of the most remarkable places in our solar system. It sent back close-up images of Jupiter's swirling storms and discovered a thin ring around the planet as well as a new moon. At Saturn, it revealed that the planet's rings were more complex than anyone imagined, with ripples and patterns shaped by hidden moons. When it reached Uranus, it discovered 10 new moons, 2 new rings, and revealed that the planet is tilted so far over it almost lies on its side. At Neptune, it found 5 new moons, 4 rings, and a huge storm known as the Great Dark Spot, along with geysers on the moon Triton shooting ice into space. After Neptune, Voyager 2 continued its journey toward interstellar space, eventually becoming the only spacecraft to visit both Uranus and Neptune. In November 2018, it crossed the heliopause, the invisible boundary where the sun's influence ends and the space between the stars begins. Scientists had imagined this boundary would be smooth, but Voyager 2 discovered something unexpected. The interstellar medium was denser than predicted, with unusual magnetic fields and stronger cosmic rays. One of the most fascinating parts of Voyager 2's mission is the golden record it carries, a gold-plated disc containing sounds and images from Earth, such as greetings in many languages, music, and the sound of a baby crying. This record is like a message in a bottle, sent into the galaxy in case another intelligent civilization finds it. In May 2025, when Voyager 2 was over 20.8 billion kilometers away, it sent back another unusual signal. Not random noise, but something that made scientists pay close attention. Whatever it encountered was not supposed to be there according to all our models of the solar system's edge. It raised questions that scientists are still trying to answer, and it reminded everyone that space is full of mysteries we do not yet understand. The edge of our solar system is not an empty, peaceful place. It's active, chaotic, and full of strange behavior where the familiar rules of our solar system no longer apply. But the most surprising part wasn't the chaos, it was the silence. Out there was no steady solar noise, no predictable patterns, just strange and unpredictable signals that made scientists stare at their screens longer than usual. Some described it as if the frontier itself was breathing. Voyager 2 wasn't floating into calm space, it was drifting into an invisible storm. Then, in 2025, the data began to change. Cosmic rays started spiking in ways that didn't make sense, showing patterns no one could explain. Something seemed to be pushing back, not from deep in the galaxy, but from the very edge of our solar system. It was almost as if that boundary wasn't an open door, but a warning. Voyager 2 didn't stop to listen. It kept moving forward, until it suddenly turned back. Years earlier, the spacecraft had faced another mystery. In March 2020, Voyager 2 went silent. NASA said the quiet was due to maintenance on the Goldstone antenna in California, a massive 70-meter dish used to communicate with the probe. But even after repairs were completed, the silence continued. Weeks passed, then months, with no response from one of the farthest human-made objects in the universe. Inside NASA's Deep Space Network, engineers began to wonder if the spacecraft had finally shut down for good. After all, it was over 40 years old, running on a slowly decaying nuclear battery with less power than a nightlight. Then, on October 29, 2020, NASA tried one last command, a message sent into the dark, more in hope than expectation. To everyone's surprise, Voyager 2 answered. The reply was loud, clear, and precise. It had received the command, realigned its antenna, and was still alive. But the truly strange part came next. Data started arriving from old instruments that hadn't been active since the 1980s. These readings didn't look like normal background measurements. They had patterns, layered pulses, repeating echoes, and binary signals that seemed to loop. It almost looked as if Voyager 2 had picked up a message from somewhere and was trying to repeat it. NASA publicly called it radiation interference or a glitch, but privately, some engineers weren't so sure. The mystery deepened in early 2025. At NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, a quiet alert appeared in the telemetry feed. More than 20.8 billion kilometers from Earth, Voyager 2 had moved, not due to a malfunction or random drift, but a deliberate, measured turn. For a spacecraft with decades-old wiring and barely enough power to run a small light bulb, this kind of movement didn't just happen. Its thrusters hadn't been commanded to fire, and no programmed course correction was scheduled. It was as if the probe had flinched in slow motion. When scientists checked the data, things became even stranger. Voyager's magnetometer, a device that has been working since the late 1970s, showed a sudden jolt, not a gradual shift, but a sharp spike. At the same time, its cosmic ray sensors went wild, recording a burst of radiation far stronger than a solar storm. It was sudden, intense, and invisible. It wasn't a software error, and it wasn't space debris. Whatever Voyager 2 had encountered out there, it was something we had never recorded before. The latest data suggested that Voyager 2 hadn't just wandered off course. It had been influenced by something outside itself. Whatever it was, it didn't push the spacecraft physically but seemed to pull it just enough to alter its path. Engineers considered every natural explanation they could think of, a rogue comet, a passing pulsar, even a flare from a distant neutron star. But nothing fit. The readings were too precise, too deliberate, as if Voyager had tripped over an invisible wire hidden in the darkness. That's when a disturbing idea began to circulate. Maybe Voyager 2 didn't simply drift. Maybe it dodged. And machines don't dodge unless something makes them. This raised a troubling question. What did Voyager encounter out there that shouldn't have been there at all? The movement was controlled, almost purposeful, suggesting there might be some kind of boundary in the void, a boundary that was never meant to be crossed. This boundary might not have been a physical wall but more like a message. Turn back. And the presence behind that warning didn't feel like a poetic idea. It felt real enough to make seasoned NASA engineers freeze in their seats. When Voyager 2 skimmed past this invisible edge, the readings didn't whisper, they screamed. In the stream of data was something extraordinary. A rhythmic pulse, repeating every 61.2 seconds. It wasn't random background noise. It was a steady, deliberate beat, as if something out there was knocking from the other side. The magnetometer showed sharp, unnatural spikes. The cosmic ray detector lit up in perfect time with the pulses. There was no sign of a solar flare, no asteroid nearby, no pulsar in range, just this eerie repeating signal. And then came another unsettling detail. The space around Voyager 2 had gone strangely clean. No drifting debris, no cosmic dust, not even the usual background hum of deep space. It was a silence so complete it felt unnatural. Imagine driving down a busy highway and suddenly hitting a stretch of road with no tire marks, no wind, no sound, not even a hint of life. That's what Voyager 2 had entered. It was an interstellar dead zone, so perfectly empty it almost seemed like it had been prepared. What happened next caught everyone off guard. Researchers began digging through satellite records, running complex simulations, and searching for a natural explanation. But every possible answer fell apart when they faced one unsettling truth. This strange wall didn't just exist, it reacted. Voyager 2's turn, subtle yet precise, lined up perfectly with the mysterious pulse, almost as if whatever was beyond that barrier didn't like being observed. Then came the darker thought. What if this wasn't a simple boundary, but a threshold? Something ancient. Something built. Something that was never meant to be crossed until now. And if Voyager 2 had crossed it, what exactly had it let through? Some thresholds should never be crossed alone. There's a fear that lingers in the background, and it's not about random space noise anymore. It's about the possibility that Voyager 2 has drawn the attention of something out there, something watching. The silence from NASA isn't reassuring. It's the kind of silence that makes people uneasy. Behind closed doors, scientists aren't just confused, they're tense, because the data doesn't feel random. It feels deliberate. The instruments aboard Voyager 2, long past their expected lifespan, are picking up signals that are steady, timed, and impossibly precise. Not just any signals, either. The pulses seem to echo the digits of pi, 3.14159, repeating like a cosmic metronome, as if a code had been written into the void itself. Then came the particle readings, sharp bursts of high-energy particles striking Voyager in focused streams, not scattered like normal cosmic radiation. It was too direct to be an accident. That's when the unsettling thought crept in. Maybe our solar system isn't an open frontier. Maybe it's a fenced-in yard. And Voyager 2, in its quiet persistence, might have brushed against the gate. Stranger still was the possibility that this wasn't the first time something had tried to leave. Some began to wonder if the barrier's purpose wasn't to keep things out, but to keep us in, not for protection, but for observation. Imagine Earth as a snow globe on display, being studied by something outside. NASA isn't rushing to announce anything publicly. They're quietly running tests, double-checking every reading, and reviewing the data again and again. But their silence speaks volumes. It feels like something noticed us, and now we might be part of an experiment. If that's true, the real worry isn't what might happen, it's what may have already happened. Voyager 2 might not have just sent back a report. It might have triggered a response. And that response doesn't seem patient. It's getting closer, stronger, and more dangerous than anyone expected. Then there's the other question, the one that makes this even riskier. The golden record. This shiny gold disc, bolted to Voyager's side, contains a carefully chosen collection of humanity's greatest sounds and images. Decades ago, scientists imagined it as a hopeful gift to the cosmos, a greeting to anyone who might find it. Carl Sagan and his team treated it like a message in a bottle, sent out to drift through an endless ocean. It contains greetings in 55 languages, the sound of laughter, music from around the world, the brainwaves of a person in love, whale songs, diagrams of our anatomy, and even directions to our home. But space is not an empty ocean. It's the unknown. And now some wonder if that gift wasn't an introduction at all, but an invitation, and whether something has finally accepted it. Now, with Voyager 2's strange signals echoing back like distant warning bells, the hopeful vision of the golden record feels less like optimism and more like a risky gamble. Picture it, a lone probe 20.8 billion kilometers from Earth, drifting in absolute darkness. Its gold disk catches a faint glimmer of starlight, like an accidental flare in the void. Maybe it wasn't noticed because we shouted. Maybe it was noticed because we sang. And that song may have pierced a silence we didn't understand. This isn't about paranoia. It's about realizing we might have struck a match in a room we knew nothing about. And matches draw attention, sometimes the wrong kind. Because now there's a disturbing possibility. The signals Voyager 2 is receiving aren't just echoes or random interference. They could be replies. If that's true, then we've already been seen. The real fear isn't that we sent a message, it's that something answered, and we don't know its intent. Voyager 2 wasn't built to hide or defend itself. It's a messenger, exposed and alone, carrying both our greatest hopes and possibly our biggest mistake. What it saw before turning back is the part NASA isn't ready to share. When the signal first went silent, it gripped the world's attention. Was it a technical glitch? Or had something out there deliberately cut the connection? On July 21, 2023, more than 20 billion kilometers from home, Voyager 2 disappeared. No signal. No data. No heartbeat. It had simply gone dark. NASA later confirmed that they could still detect a faint carrier signal, the probe's heartbeat. At first, the agency thought it was human error. A command from Earth had accidentally shifted Voyager's antenna by just 2 degrees. That might sound minor, but in deep space, such a tilt means total communication blackout. In response, NASA sent what they called an interstellar shout, blasting a powerful signal toward Voyager 2 using a massive 70-meter dish in Australia. The goal was simple: yell loud enough to get the probe's attention and guide it back into alignment. Days passed. Then weeks. No response. And then, on August 4th, the impossible happened. Voyager 2 answered. The signal was strong, the data was clear, and the spacecraft was still on course. It should have been the perfect ending. But the blackout didn't feel random anymore. You remember the strange pulses, repeating every 61.2 seconds, carrying patterns resembling the digits of pi, alongside magnetic bursts that broke every rule we knew? Scientists called it a cosmic resonance. But what if those pulses had already been present back in 2023? What if the blackout wasn't an accident at all, but a test, to see if we were watching? The clock is ticking. Voyager 2's power is down to just 470 watts, barely enough to keep its systems alive. NASA has already shut down some instruments to stretch its life until 2030. But with each passing day, the anxiety grows. What if the silence wasn't caused by us? What if something touched that antenna? Remember, Voyager crossed a strange boundary in 2018, and then again in 2023. What if those crossings didn't just mark a line in space, but triggered something? A sensor. A system. A warning. Some now believe we're being watched. Others think we're being contained, like a curious child pressing a hand against an electric fence, not realizing what's on the other side. Sure, Voyager is talking to us again, but now every signal feels like part of a countdown. A few last whispers before the connection dies for good. And maybe next time, it won't be us who ends the conversation. Maybe the next silence won't be an accident at all. It'll be an answer.